we're running very late today, 10 minutes off, but I wanted to get this stream out the way. Today I'm going to be talking a lot more about world events than I'm going to be talking about comic book movies, particularly Restore the Snyderverse. However, I have to cover some news, so we'll try and backtrack, get things out the way, and keep it moving. All praise be to the Most High God. The Most High God comes first. And this stream is brought to you by LIVE products. LIVE, live now, we're live now. And you have an array of drinks and punches you can get from LIVE. Some of these drinks you see in front of you here. I'm not going to play the video. We also have cleaning products from LIVE. If you live in the Trinidad and Tobago area and you want to place your order, please feel free to do so. The link is in the description. All right, let's get to it. What we're going to talk about today: Restore the Snyderverse trolling. But before I do that, I just want to talk about USAID funding Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, ISIS. U.S. Congressman Scotty Perry drops the bombshell on everybody, something that we already knew, but now they have access to the documents and so on, and so they were able to bring it to Congress. A little bit of Snyderverse stuff, okay? A little bit of Snyderverse stuff, not too much. There you go. So this was the first Superman comic. I already went through this in some detail about Superman. But I bring this up because on here I had to answer a guy who his view of Superman is interesting, to say the least. See if I can find it somewhere here. Can't be in my replies, probably. Hold on 1 second. I'll get to it. Somewhere around here. Y'all are gonna have to bear with me for a second. Okay, I think I found it. This guy, Jose Sampaio, he says, I'm a comics guy, and for me, Reeves is the best Superman in the movie. That said, I like Henry's movies, but they're not like comics. They don't feel like comics. And Superman's one of my favorite comic characters because he's so good, a really decent guy. So I decided to respond to this guy about Superman, particularly from the comics. As to Man of Steel not looking or feeling like comics, I said, go read Superman #1. You say you're a comics guy, so pick up that comic and read it. And I'll give you some excerpts from it. And so I was showing him the excerpts. So in this excerpt, obviously, Superman goes to the orphan asylum where it is astounding the attendance there with feats of strength. His foster parents come and say, you know, we can get that sweet child out of our mind. We've come to adopt him, if you'll permit us. And the head of the asylum says, I believe it can be arranged. Phew, thank goodness they're taking him away before he wrecks the asylum. The love and guidance of his kindly foster parents was to become an important factor in the shaping of the boy's future. Now listen to me, Clark. The great strength of yours, you've got to hide it from people or they'll be scared of you. But when the proper time comes, you must use it to assist humanity. So that's just part of the thing. that I sent. And then we have some more stuff here. Seeing Superman leaping buildings as he gets older, and picking up cars and stuff, running with trains. Of course, we saw Superman leap before he could fly in Man of Steel, so that kind of harmonizes as well. And then I circled this particularly because Superman, champion of the oppressed. Champion of the oppressed. This is what Superman is. They're giving you Schuster and I forget the other guy. Anyway, champion of the oppressed, the physical marvel who has sworn to devote his existence to helping those in need. So Superman is basically a defender of oppressed people, right? Superman was, and we went into that before and all of that. But I just wanted to show you him destroying a car. Here he is destroying the car right here. And this is basically what he did with the truck. Now, I bring this up because the guy is talking about comics and that this is not like comics. And basically, Man of Steel is the follow-through of Superman #1. Basically, the progression of Superman #1, at least in terms of the introduction of the character, follows pretty similarly, the philosophy and everything. Except, there's some variations, like both his parents died, and then he became Superman. But, the acts that Superman did were very extreme as well. He's quite violent. It's all about saving the oppressed, right? Now, why I say this is because this guy says that, this is Christopher Reeve embodies Superman more. This is what he said. He actually said the best Superman for him is Christopher Reeve Superman. So I went in on the guy because he said that. I said, you're a comics guy? Superman #1, read it. Reeve's Superman depowered, then murdered General Zod to triumphant Superman music. Lois Lane then punched Ursula off the ledge and she fell to her death. To which Reeves Superman chuckles and then he embraces Lois. That's your best Superman? Reeves Superman in Superman 2 returns to a bar where a guy who bullied him unprovokedly picks up the guy and launches him into a jukebox. How heroic. Is that your Superman? In Superman 1978, Superman flirts with Lois in an interview where Lois asks him what color's her panties. And he liked the color and he told her what color it was. He not only used his x-ray vision to see the panties, but he told her he liked the color. That's your Superman? Because Cavils was forced to kill Zod, who's going to kill humans, who vowed to either kill Superman or be killed by him. He begged him to stop, which Zod refused to do. After he snaps Zod's neck, he cries out in exasperation because he's taken a life, something he never thought he would do. He was so traumatized by it, Lois had to comfort him. The music is solemn, not celebratory. Superman does not harm the truck driver who sexually harassed the waitress, then tries to assault him. Instead, he takes it out on his truck. Lois does not ask him about her panties, but instead asks meaningful questions, including what his S stood for. Superman is grateful she does not rat out his identity. I really don't know how your Superman is better than the one Cavill shared with us. A much more serious, earnest take that does not have to murder and be smutty and cringy. Cavill shows true, not false hope. Does not draw attention to himself, but to the virtue of hope. And I wanted to say this to this guy because a lot of these guys that talk about, Christopher Reeve Superman is, their best Superman. They probably have never even watched Superman 1970. And if they did, they were so in the cocoon of the kind of music that's playing and supposedly the magic of the movie that they're not realizing that Superman's espousing some pretty bad values. He's not really being a gentleman. He's being slutty. He's not actually being a hero. He's being a murderer. And these are things that these people actually praise Christopher Reeve Superman for. Because of the kind of movie, because there are jokes, because consequence is not emphasized in that movie, like how Man of Steel consequence is emphasized and taken seriously. And I just wanted to point that out before I move on. Yes, I know this is about trolling. We'll get to that. But I just thought I would mention that and speak on that first and foremost. Rob Liefeld says, get Feige off the mound. He's spent. Captain America Brave New World has earned 7.2 million yesterday at the domestic box office. Oh, yes, that's right. An 82.4% drop from the film's domestic opening. Now, you got to understand, Captain America, the Brave New World, actually, I'm going to just kind of go and do some homework on that right now. See what its box office is looking like on Box Office Mojo. Or maybe Wikipedia. Because if that movie flops, that would be funny as hell. For several different reasons, and I'll bring out the reasons. It has to do with it has to do with something very particular. And a lot of people are hoping that it will do well, but I really don't care. Ho ho! So it has a budget of 180 million, and it is only at 217.9 million, and it doesn't look like the momentum is building for it. It looks like it's crashing and burning, which is awesome. I'm actually triumphing. I'm actually happy about that, and I'll tell y'all guys why soon enough. One of the characters in Captain America, A Brave New World, and this is for the people who deal with Free Palestine. One of the characters in Captain America, A Brave New World is a Mossad agent. That's right. And that is already, people were actually boycotting the movie just for that. And, Disney tried to reduce the actor's role, who is actually the actors comes from the IDF, but then most of Israelis, people have to go into the military anyway. But I think she was an active IDF soldier. And they reduced her role in the movie. And actually, some people said that, she didn't really have much of a consequential role. But I'm so happy that people boycott this movie. It shows so much consciousness. And I'll tell you the name of the character in a second. Here's the plot. Actually, the character seems to have such a minor role in this whole thing that I don't think they even mention it. I think there's a cast here. Okay. I think this is it here. Shira Haas is Ruth Bat Seraph, an Israeli former Black Widow who serves as President Thaddeus Russ security advisor. Now they're just calling her Black Widow, but she really was former Mossad agent. Let's see if I can get some more out of that. Yeah. Is an Israeli former Black Widow, high-ranking U.S. government officer. So they're not using her as Mossad anymore. She was a former Israeli Mossad agent. Now they're calling her Black Widow. Who's also security advisor to the United States President Thaddeus Rush. She assists Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres in stopping Samuel Stearns. As of 2025, the characters appeared in Captain America: The Brave New World. All right, so woo, this is so funny. Shira Haas, born as an Israeli actress, her first rose to local prominence in her role in television series Shitzel, and her international breakthrough came with her portrayal of Esther S.D. Shapiro in Netflix miniseries Unorthodox 2022. She really goes every time nomination. All right, this is her. She actually has been in the IDF, and they call her Bat Seraph. Seraph, we can actually look up this Bat Seraph. Okay, that's also known as Sabra. That's the character, Sabra. It's an Israeli superhero appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics, created by Bill Mantlo and artist Sal Buscema. The character first debuted in Incredible Hulk 250, so she kind of appears with the Hulk again, with a minor appearance before making a full appearance in Incredible Hulk 256. Marvel Comics, there she is, created there. It's a human mutant. She's actually supposed to be a mutant. Team affiliations: X Corporation, New Warriors, and Mossad. Okay, she doesn't seem to have any super strength or anything like that, though. So they, so they tried to cover up that she's a Messiah. Now, my pro-Palestinian brothers and sisters, um, when they saw that, they was like, "All right, you guys need to boycott that shit." So that's why that's why the movie's not doing so great in box office right now. It's doing abysmal. It's doing real bad. I don't even know if it'll make 400 million. We'll see worldwide. That we'll know by the end of this weekend. This is what's up, though. And listen, people, I am so happy about this. You guys have spoken. Looks like this movie's gonna bomb, y'all. I think it has to make 600 or something million to break even. So I don't know, man, or 500 or something to break even, something like that. But yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, look where we're at. Can't even get to 400 million. So I don't know, man. Now that don't look good, because if this movie is doing that poorly, imagine what Superman's gonna do. All right. Ugh. Yep. Let's keep it moving, though. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. Yeah. So I wanted to say a bunch of stuff. Oh, wait, look at this. Real DC fans slowly realizing there isn't actually a Snyder cult. Oh my God, this is so funny. Hey, you guys are funny out here. All right, anyways, I want to say a couple of things, but anyway, let me get back to Superman, Snyderverse, stuff like that. So yeah, it's Captain America, Brave New World, whatever the hell they calling it. It looks like it's gonna bomb, ladies and gentlemen. Bomb. Woo! That's good. That's good. It's toxic. That's good. My boy Damian Anton Vincent would laugh at that. You know, people are conscious. And what people need to understand is comic book movies are literature. I keep saying it, I'll stress it again and again and again. And literature will be reflective of the world, pop culture of the world. You know, EMA is doing some great shit. Her song, Armageddon, or not Armageddon, Carmageddon is doing really well. And the reason that's happening is because she tapped into the pop culture, the things of the day. You know, she got it right. Even with, you know, the rap artists, you know, who's, you know, just blowing out Drake right now, and and so much more. All right, so I want to educate you guys a little bit on Palestine, but let me just run through just a few more things, man. When it comes to Restore the Snyderverse, before I go into that, you know, Sergi Constance, who was Zeus, who played the role of Zeus, was talking, you know, he gave thanks to Zack Snyder and he's willing to work ahead with him. This happened over this weekend. I'm like, ooh, what's going on here? Are we going to have like Zack Snyder's Justice League 2? You know what I'm saying? Because he made a number of different comments. In fact, I'm going to go on to his Twitter here, and you guys are going to see what I'm talking about, right? So he reposted what Lethal Geeks did, where he destroyed the mother boxes there, which was really dope. Let's see if I can get some audio up in there. Okay, there's no audio for that. And then here he's just sharing love with everybody in the DC clear. And this is him again saying, finally, I wanted to share a personal because he was tweeting like crazy. My philosophy and strategy for life: be ready and make music, not noise. Always be ready. I was chosen for this role because I trained hard, stayed disciplined, followed the right path. I took care of myself, stayed focused, and maintained a strong mindset. That dedication shaped my overall image, and in turn, it sparked something in Zack Snyder's vision, allowing him to see me as this. To be honest, I feel great about it. Looks like he wasn't wrong. And now, after a period of learning and study, I feel more prepared than ever to follow Zack's guidelines and to create something that will be remembered. I'm like, dude, what is this dude talking about? Like, he's talking like he's like Zach's gonna use him for something else. You know what I'm saying? And then we saw the picture with Zach and James Gunn. Even Zach hasn't posted up anything on that so far. That doesn't mean I don't know what he's gonna do. So, but Sergi Constance bringing this up had me like, what's going on here, people? What's going on here? Here he is again, thanking people. And here he is making another statement. And all of this happened in the last 24 hours, right? And the thing about this is this, right? That a lot of people are not getting. That Sergi Constance, he was left out of the Justice League movie, but his role was restored. Oh, was he? No, I think he was in the Justice League movie. Now I think about it. He was in the first one as well. Anyway, Sergi Constance says, honored to be part of Zack Snyder's Justice Project role. Zeus in there. Under the direction of pure genius, the incredibly talented Zack Snyder. I cannot express enough gratitude for this amazing opportunity to experience every second of the set was joy. And even now I get emotional seeing myself on the big screen. A huge shout out to you, my fans, and to all the DC fans, mythology, superior, enthusiasts, and everyone who has supported me with kind words, love, and encouragement. Thank you. I feel privileged to have been accepted and supported and representing such an incredible god as Zeus. Finally, I want to share personal reflection, my philosophy and strategy for life, which he just posted up above. Honored to be part of the Snyderverse, portraying the role of Zeus in Justice League WB. Please don't use that. Use the other one, which is Zack Snyder's Justice League with the Snyder Cut. Under the direction of pure genius, the incredibly talented Zack Snyder, I can't express enough gratitude for this amazing opportunity to experience every second on set was joy. And he went on to talk more about that. This is him again. Big, strong guy. I don't know much more about him, but it was pretty cool. And you see him reposting a lot of stuff that has to do with Zach. So obviously this is one of the Snyder Cult members, I guess. Nah, he's working out here, which is really awesome as well. Really in shape guy. Great representation of Zeus in that movie. Really love it. Now I want you guys just to hear this, because Entertainment Biz, he puts up little snippets of the Snyderverse movies. Pay attention to this. I really love this.
Is it true what Zod said about the Codex? Extract that panel. We wanted you to learn what it meant to be human first. So that one day, when the time was right, you could be the bridge between two peoples. Look. Yours. You can save a cow. You can save all of them.
The bridge between two people, of course. Okay. So I thought that was very interesting that he came onto, I started talking. And he looked great in that movie as well. And look how the hands glow up before he shoots the lightning. It's just so cool what they do with these things. Anyways, so people say these movies are not joyful. Well, this is where we get our joy. We get our joy just from watching, the hard work put into something that just looks so real and so great. That's what we love about Zack Snyder stuff. Anyways, so now that I've covered that, I think that's the other big DC thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, no. There's one more thing. The dud, right? So there was this scoop from My Time to Shine, which is really Grace Randolph. And she was talking about how, that the supposed meeting that they were supposed to have on the Friday didn't actually happen. Whether it happened or not, they didn't have a press conference. And they were supposed to conduct something over the weekend that was supposedly said. And then they were supposed to make some sort of announcement on Monday. But it looks like James Gunn was just trolling everybody, trying to build up hype so that people would go and watch whatever he's going to feature next with Superman. He's going to bring something, make an announcement about something about Superman, maybe. So he brought this picture with Zack Snyder. Now, Zack Snyder hasn't put up anything, I don't think, on Vero. I can go and look on Vero right now and see. But I don't think Zach put up anything on Vero with regards to anything for that matter. I'm just gonna go to his Vero and see. I think the last thing he put up on Vero was him skiing or something, I think. Let's see. South Cal guy. Is James Gunn about to restore the Snyder? That would be cool if he was to do that, but I don't think he's going to do that. It's just a PR stunt. PR stunt. Zack Snyder. Snyderverse incoming. Zack Snyder doing a DCU product. 2 directors saying hello. Either way, I know one thing's for certain. After that photo, Snyderverse lives and is stronger than ever. Finish the Snyderverse. I have to agree with South Cali guy in the sense of this. You know, and Brad Courham even made some comments online. That one Zack Snyder picture caused so much conversation, and even the gun fans, started talking about Zack Snyder doing DCU movies. And I was like, "Isn't you guys said he's an atrocious DC director? You don't want him touching DC ever again." But all of a sudden, you're talking about him doing DC movies again. I was like, "Wow!" So that was pretty funny. And then the other thing that I thought was pretty interesting was, people speculating, does this mean that James Gunn's going to announce that the Snyderverse is being released maybe in an Elseworld environment? Some people talking about, maybe Zack Snyder's going to do a Batfleck movie, like he's going to do a Dark Knight Returns. He always talked about that. So maybe it's that. Well, Greatest Random was saying it's not big, and maybe they'll make an announcement Monday, but it was to draw attention. Maybe Gunn's trying to draw attention, being desperate. Me personally, I think it's this. I know more than likely it's not about restoring the Snyderverse. Okay. More than likely it's not about Zack Snyder doing any movies with James Gunn either, because I can't see him taking notes from James Gunn. James Gunn and Zack Snyder are diametrically opposite in terms of, in my opinion, how they direct movies. Zack likes to do serious movies. He doesn't like to do comedy per se. He likes to treat the characters a certain way, and James Gunn is kind of diametrically opposed to that. Like, he thinks of them as ridiculous, and he still wants to tell why they're relevant. He still wants to tell the story, but he just comes from a totally different perspective. Anyways, James Gunn was hugging up Zack Snyder. Some people saying it was just being a fan of Zack. Whatever it was, it got a response. The question really is this. It got such a tremendous response because it was Zack Snyder, right? James Gunn with Zack Snyder. And James Gunn's probably trying to show everybody we're still friends, we're still amicable. We're not fighting each other or anything. My thing is this. If you're going to put up a photo of that, you better come with something good. Otherwise, you're just rallying up the audience to troll your ass and to troll you mercilessly. If that's what you want, he better come with something good. He better come with something good that involves Zack Snyder. You can't just be putting you can't be just trying to ride this guy's name and don't expect a backlash. I said it. I said in a post. I said if he's just trying to play the fans, play the audience, and troll us, he is going to get such an epic. He might have to put himself off of social media because he doesn't understand how you tease, provoke, and troll the DC fan base. Because even his own fans, even Gunn fans, even Gunn fans were talking about this and the prospect of what Zack Snyder could be doing. So he's literally trolling his own fans. If nothing comes out of this, he's trolling his own fans. He's trolling the apologists. He's making them look stupid. He's done it time and time again. He's made his own fans who are trying to defend him look stupid. When he brought out that horrible costume, which was dirty, Superman was looking depressed. And the fans wanted trunks. He gave them the trunks. The trunks looked terrible. Like the worst version of trunks you can get, he put on Superman, right? Some people are marking calling it diapers, whatever. And I just strongly feel James Gunn is trolling the DC fan base. He's trolling us. He doesn't even like us. And he's trolling us. That's what I truly believe. When Henry Cavill came out with the You know, he was he was doing something for, I believe it was a perfume or something, some sort of GQ thing. Right after that, you had David Cornsweet advertising a perfume. It was a troll, and James Gunn has been trolling us nonstop. You know, the Green Lantern, he's trolling. And I think that's what's really going on. And WB's going along with it and trolling everybody. And they don't care. They really don't care. They're trying to tick off the whole fan base. They're trying to tick off all DC fans. It's like they have a hate for all DC fans. And they just we're going to tick them off. Even though this movie is going to flop, we're going to troll the crap out of them and have fun. And I think that's what James Gunn is doing. And quite frankly, you DC fans have all right to flop his movie, because if that movie even makes, forget about making, if it could just generate, because I think his Superman movie is going to make a record for sure. It's going to be it's going to be the lowest grossing DC movie of all time when all is said and done. I feel so. I feel it's a massive troll he's doing. And people are talking about universes and all of that. James Mangold, he got out of it. He's smart. He got out of it. He realized this is a shit fest. This is not going to go down well. And I truly believe James Gunn is done for already. You know, I think David Zaslav and Company Limited, people are talking about extremely nervous about this movie. I'm telling you right now, the movie he's about to put out, I just know. It's because of the atmosphere he's created, it ain't gonna be much people going to see that movie. Right? And if Captain America, which, you know, Marvel has taken really great care to have this character a certain way and a certain standard. And if Captain America, New Frontier, or whatever the hell it's called, kind of Brave New World, if Captain America Brave New World can't even break even, I don't think that movie may break even. It may not break even. But the way how things are going over this weekend, woo, if it even makes 400 million, that'll be good for it. And it needs to make about 500-600 million to break even. So Kevin Feige's in some trouble. This ain't doing well, right? And it's so strange. But the one thing, the concession that everybody realizes, and we all realize, is James Gunn realizes, WB realizes, everybody realizes Zack Snyder is the guy for DC. He's the savior of DC. And no matter how many trolls, no matter how many bots, no matter how many executives, no matter how many paid-to-play shills say otherwise, it's becoming resoundingly obvious that this is the guy to save DC. And it's so ironic because they said Jeff Johns is the guy to save DC. Then they went to, hopefully Armada could save DC. Then they started talking about, well, The Rock might save DC. And they said, well, James Gunn will definitely save DC. You're in good hands when you're James Gunn. So far, those good hands haven't produced a single movie that didn't flop in the cinemas. And Superman's going to be an epic flop. And he ain't going to have nobody to blame but James Gunn, because he moved every other player out the way. Now I hear some of these stupid people trying to say that BVS was the reason that universe is flopped and has poisoned the whole entire. That don't make no damn sense. And why? Because right after BVS came Suicide Squad that made money. Wonder Woman not only made money, it was critically acclaimed. And then the studio interfered with Justice League, so that flopped. And then we had Aquaman. And BVS did not affect Aquaman. Aquaman it's the highest grossing DC movie of all time. So what are you talking about? No, there is something else going on. And the reason we know something else is going on is just what happened over this weekend. This weekend, Zack Snyder was brought back into the picture And there was so much buzz and so much viewership over that. It showed us that Zack Snyder's the factor that's missing. When they removed Zack Snyder from the universe, it collapsed in on itself. And no other DC head or no other person with sparing him or having a vision for the universe has been successful doing it. Not The Rock, not Hamada, not Jeff Johns, not John Berg, and not James Gunn and Peter Safran. They have all failed. And while I feel I need to say this, so I'm going to vocalize it here today as my contribution to the situation. I must say, I must be reserved in saying this, that one of the reasons why all these other DC heads have failed to get DC up and pumping as it should be is because they're not universe builders. They have no experience building universes. Zack Snyder has experience building, let's see how many universes now. He has 300, that's one. He's got the Army of the Dead verse going on. He's got the Rebel Moon universe going on, that's 3. He's got the Twilight of the Gods universe going on, that's 4. And then he had the Snyderverse going on. He has experience in building 5 different universes. Nobody else has as much experience as him when it comes to that. Not even Kevin Feige. And Kevin Feige is, the coordinator of Marvel. Maybe Kevin Feige is the only other one. Zack Snyder has proven time and time again Christopher Nolan was right. That is the difference. The other thing is, with respect to all these other directors, all due respect to them, very few of them understand Superman and get him and can relay their understanding of Superman to the screen in such a way that people are interested in the character and will go to see it in the cinemas. Right? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had the closest chance to make Superman work again. And all he had to do was override Jeff Johns and Walter Hamada and tell them, looky here, because Abdi and DeLuca were there now. Looky here, this last minute change. I need to be plugged into the Snyderverse. I need to be a part of that universe. He was so big-headed, he thought he could take over DC, and he thought with the big campaigns and the big stuff, media that Warner Brothers had, that he could do it on his own. And the sad thing about it is, the people who are responsible for Rotten Tomatoes and stuff, they had a feature with him, and they literally showed Zack Snyder's Justice League as the Justice League. They did not show the Justice League before that. And instead, The Rock had Henry Cavill wear the Man of Steel suit, breaking continuity with the Snyderverse. And then he chose to play John Williams' score in there instead of playing a Hans Zimmer's theme. 2 fatal mistakes. Why The Rock could be today sitting real cool, part of the Snyderverse, pushing forward, and we ease back in Zack Snyder's characters and we ease back in his stuff. They tried to do it with Andy Muschietti's Flash, but then James Gunn overrode that and canceled that stuff out. Because, see, fans are willing to put up with trash if it's going to lead somewhere. That's what happened with the Marvel Universe and Endgame and Infinity War. Everybody was promised that down in the end, so they were like, yes, okay, I'll put up with this trash, but I want to get down to that end, so yeah, I'm going to support that. But there was no direction by Warner Brothers, as if we were going to lead back to, they said they were going to lead back to Snyder, but the actions didn't mirror that. They had the opportunity to do so, but they did not do it. And again, all critical parts of this puzzle and all the hard work put into getting these critical parts of the puzzle have to be in place for this to work. You can't have Zack Snyder there, but you don't have Henry Cavill. to do a Superman movie. That's stupid. Henry and Zack have worked together. They know each other pretty well. So if you're going to do a Superman movie with Henry Cavill, you need to have a director that understands Superman and understands how Henry Cavill behaves. So if Zack was to be directing Henry, it would be easy for Henry because Henry knows Zack's style. Nobody's been successful directing Henry in terms of box office, in terms of Superman. Nobody. Joss Whedon was not successful in directing Henry. Andy Muschietti, well, he never even directed Henry. Henry ended up a CGI in his thing, and also a CGI Superman flying in his thing, or stunt double, right? Henry wasn't in there for the Shazam movie, and he wasn't in there for Gunn's Peacemaker, right? So the one opportunity where Henry got directed was by Joss Whedon. And while Henry said he kind of liked what Joss Whedon was doing, it did not result in the film and the success in box office that was necessary. Whedon failed. And the point I'm making is, yes, you want this fun-loving Superman that's kind of like Christopher Reeve. You want to bring that back. Okay, fine. But the thing about it is, do the majority of masses, when that becomes a reality, do they enjoy that? And the answer is no. No, they don't. So that is why Zack Snyder is going to be notoriously a thorn in WB's side and DC's side until the Snyderverse is restored. And we'll make sure that happens. And a lot of people are starting to side with us. A lot of people are believing. And if you was, that's why James Gunn, he's kind of stupid because your DC head status is not relying on you to make your movie successful. It's relying on you making history, something bigger, which is you being the one who actually saves DC by restoring the Snyderverse, allowing Matt Reeves to do what he needs to do, allowing individual directors to chart their own paths and tell their own stories. And maybe, if you want to do it in your DCU, you could pass notes to people, but maybe you just do you. You just do your style that you've been trademarked to do. And maybe, I'm not saying it would, but I'm saying maybe some DC fans would look at that and say, because of that good faith, I'm going to go watch your Superman movie. And your Superman movie does better than it is about to do, because it's not about to do well. But if you become less selfish, it'll do better. It'll do better than you think. And maybe it could be a springboard for Jeff Johns and what you guys wanted, the DCU. You know? Maybe. But the problem with people like James Gunn, the problem is they're so selfish and they think that their agenda must work by hill or high water. There's no middle ground. There's no compromise. There's no, let's try this. If this is not working, let's try this. And so I don't expect him to make an announcement talking about restoring the Snyderverse, and in good faith, Zack Snyder Justice will go into cinemas and at X amount of time this year, and then we'll also have the air cut out there. I don't expect him to do that because he's not an unselfish person, even though he talks like that. He's not an unselfish person. He's thinking about his career. He's thinking, if I don't do well with my movie, then what good is it? And at the end of the day, you have to stop thinking so myopic when you're a DC head. You have to be thinking about all things DC. And even if, and this is the thing, I don't know why this guy's so stupid. Even if they replace you, Jason Kilar will go down in history as the guy who started the events that led to the Snyder Cut coming to be. Whether you like Jason Kilar or not, he's part of that history. James Gunn, if he was to restore the Snyderverse and be a champion for that, he'd win over fans. And no matter what, they'll always remember that he restored the Snyderverse. Not only did he restore the Snyderverse, but he also allowed independent directors to do their thing and get the freedom like what he had. So that now his style fits in with many different styles out there. And DC has more to offer when it has such variety, different storytelling. The problem with the companies, it was trying to be like Marvel, have all these notes and regulate things and try to get hit. That's not what DC is. That's not the history. They're not a factory that produce stuff. They give you quality. They give you different perspectives from different directors. You know what made Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman so wonderful? Her perspective on things. And it was executed well. That's why her Wonder Woman movie won over so many people and had so much impact. And women started crying when they saw seeing things on the screen they didn't realize and discover about themselves. It was because it was well done, except for the ending, right? So that's what needs to happen with DC. And your audience is not one that's just going to laugh their heads off like Marvel. Marvel earned that through Iron Man. Iron Man was the foundation through which it roped the audience in, and then they looked forward to Thanos, and that roped everybody in. With DC, Zack Snyder was building that. And again, it didn't happen overnight. Man of Steel didn't make that $1 billion everybody was expecting it to make. I don't know why they thought so. That was an unrealistic point of view anyway. As incredible as that movie is, it was an unrealistic thing because you were rebooting a franchise. I don't know any reboot except for maybe, nope, I don't know of any reboot that ever started off with $1 billion. It's as unrealistic as it gets. And even BVS crossing $1 billion. Okay, yeah, The Dark Knight did that. But BVS was compromised, right? The Dark Knight wasn't compromised. The Dark Knight was what it was. BVS was compromised. So why would an exec think after you cut the runtime by 30 minutes that for some reason or the other, this movie's going to be better than the original runtime, you know? And yes, BVS challenged a lot of people, and it's a classic, and it's going to be a classic forever. But the point behind it is, why did they think that BVS had to make $1.5 billion? That was what the execs, their crazy minds thought that. And maybe it would have touched somewhere around there if the longer version had come out. And of course, a lot of people, a lot of critics and the people in the industry castigated it because, of course, Civil War was coming right behind. So it was a very, BVS literally challenged everything. And it's a superior film to Civil War any day of the week. Okay. But unfortunately for BVS, the critics panned it. And a lot of people said, hey, what the critics did is just, and then they had the Razzie Awards and so on. So Hollywood was just against BVS for some reason. And I could tell you why, but I'm not going to go into that right now. Let me see if I can find here Zack Snyder. There he is. Okay, let's just see what what's his last thing. His last post was him leaping in the air, the bungee cord, or maybe this is CG, I don't know. Or picture, manipulation, editing. But this is him in the air here, leaping like Rorschach, leaping like Batman, coming down on the ground. A little warm up before my workout. And there's with Cristiano Ronaldo, and then he's here with Turki Al-Sheikh. That's very interesting. So I'm not sure what's going on in the background, why Zack Snyder just kind of popped up out of nowhere. Remember, Zack Snyder, we were talking a lot about Zack Snyder, Restore the Snyderverse. I even did a video of a DC Marvel crossover where we could use Deadpool and the Snyderverse, right? And then all of a sudden I'm hearing DC Marvel crossovers coming, and then James Gunn just suddenly shows up with Zack Snyder. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that I'm 100% sure what's happening in the background, but I do know that Zack Snyder's around, and that's important to remember. So shout out, by the way, to South Cali Guy 87. I just wanted to round that up, make sure I got all those things out of there. WBD, see, they're friends. Don't boycott WB, vocal minority cult. That's fear. That's the reason I am broke. Shout out to Reasons I Am Broke. It's showing a lantern with a ring, Sonic stuff. He posts up a lot of stuff. Jacob Torres says, but this rabid, delusional Snyderverse fan base has got to give up. They've got the Snyder cut. They're not getting some total restoration of his DCU. And no, he does not hate James Gunn for that. Please come back to reality. This is in, I don't know if this is a comment in Forbes. I don't know if this is Forbes. Hey, Zack Snyder, they think it's over. The more they keep on saying these things is the more we realize we need to push on. Because it means they're feeling the pain. They know they need us to watch their movies. And so for some reason, they think by saying, oh, it's over and they need to come back to reality and blah, 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 blah. And by saying that, they think for some reason, I don't know why, that we'll just suddenly stop and be like, oh, yeah, they're right. There was no chance of the Snyderverse coming back. You know, it's the same stupid talk they had when the Snyder Cut was happening. I don't know why these delusional fans don't realize there's no Snyder Cut. I don't know why they keep on asking for it. They should stop and get back to reality, right? This is the same bullshit, right? And we're almost 4 years in. So they're not saying anything new either. They're just like a broken record. And they don't realize all that is doing is alienating people who like Snyder's stuff from the stuff that they're offering in DC because they have such a toxic attitude towards Zack Snyder and the fact that his movies and stuff, they say it's us, the fan base, but we're just speaking about what we love. So we speak a lot about his movies and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. But apparently that, because they are filled with such hate, they have to go now and say he's a trash, director and he's a trash this, and they keep on throwing jabs at him. Any new thing comes because they hate him, because they want to see him muted. They don't want his voice in Hollywood. And then they turn around and say, no one hates Zack Snyder. We in the industry don't hate him. Of course you do, because he's fucking up your narratives. He's fucking up what you esteem as high. And then you tell the fan base what to like. But the fan base now is deciding what they want and what they want to see. Oh, executives must not bow to the fans. They must not give them what they desire. Why? You are a fucking entertainer. Do your fucking job and provide entertainment that people want to see. That's your fucking job. You're not a fucking programmer. You're not here to program our minds what to think, what to see, what to do. And that's what Zack Snyder doesn't do. That's why people can dislike his movies or not, because he gives you the choice. His whole movies are based on choice. He doesn't play enchanting music to get you into a magical trance so you fucking excuse murder on the screen and you fucking excuse sluttiness on the screen and smuttiness on the screen. And then you praise a Superman who's murdering people, bullying people because he's strong, and also smutty. You like Superman 1978 and Superman 2? Well, he's a slut and he's a murderer. How about that? Y'all not ready for me. Y'all can't wrangle with me. That's what they want you. They want you as a fucking battery where they can harvest you, take your money, give you shit, and then tell you it's good for you. And you have to be like good little sheeple. Yes. That ain't happening here. That ain't going down here. We are not children. You know why they try to do programming for kids? Because kids get satisfied by anything. And they're like, oh, mommy, daddy, I see the new movie. I want to go see it. I want to go see it for the dog. I want to go see it for the... This is what they're hoping. The kiddies will make their mommy and daddy go into the cinema and watch shit That's why they're playing to the kids. They're trying to run a racket, a quick buck off of you. But the parents be like, "No, I'm not watching that shit. I'm sorry. You want to take the kids to go see that shit? Because they're minors. They don't earn money. And we're living in a recession, for those of you who don't know. So people have to take their hard-earned money to go see entertainment. I don't know if they put a copyright strike on my shit or what, but I'm not seeing anybody right now reacting to my stuff. And that's cool. I'm keeping this as a record and I'm spreading it all around. The truth has to come out. So Zack Snyder had nothing on Vero that supports that. We're going to go into the bigger picture for a second here. The way Zionists are tweeting today, you'd never know that Israel bombed the Bibas family using U.S. bombs. In fact, they killed them in 2023. So the propaganda that the Israeli media and people who are pro-Israel are talking, and even Netanyahu is talking, is, of course, as usual, lies. This is a Jewish doctor. Listen to this.
Was taken to their torture. I'm Jewish, and I've been to Gaza as part of the humanitarian medical delegation. That was about 5 years ago. And at that time, Israel was doing the same thing it's doing now, but it was a slow genocide. Now it's full out, the gloves are off, and the mask is off.
I've told many people that our doctors are arrested, put in jail, and tortured. Israelis are excellent at torturing people. They do it all the time.
A well-known orthopedic surgeon was taken to their torture prison and was raped to death. Raped to death.
Please, just 2 minutes, please. And that's it. Now, we're done. Will be the Nobel Peace Prize winner.
It doesn't matter. None of that matters.
We can't even speak up in our own country.
Say this is this is targeted, honestly. Bombs killing hospitals, bombing hospitals, and we can't talk about it. Where the bombs are coming from. It's embarrassing. It is an absolute disgrace.
Demonstration, leaving the signs.
You're bringing attention to your cause.
Stop demonstrating. Disperse.
It's done. It ends here, or else we start getting warrants, and everyone that's involved here is arrested.
Thank you for getting the children.
We are here in Washington, D.C. Thousands of doctors gathered in front of Congress. They are calling for the restoration of funding to UNRWA, and they are demanding the release of Dr. Hussam Abu Safia.
And so I am here with my colleagues, both doctors, both psychologists, veterinarian. Yeah, everyone's just here really making sure that the voices of the Gazans and the Palestinians generally aren't forgotten.
We make myth, modern myth. Movies are modern myth. Superhero movies are modern myth. Like, is it not the same when you say, like, we have Superman, right, and Batman or whatever. Are they not the mythic answer to the a lot of modern questions about, like, how we should live? You know, like, you say Superman, is he not an invention, a 20th century invention that says to us, like, all the fucking shit that we run up against, whether it be war or like class struggle, or whether it be, relationships between different countries, does Superman not appear in answer to us primitive brains trying to figure out where we are? Like, you make a guy like Superman so he can answer some of those questions. He can represent a point of view that is not helpless in the face of the insanity that is, like, the problems of the 20th century.
Jewish, and I've been to Gaza.
There are many whites who are trying to solve the problem, but you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox. And a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see the wolf coming. You know what he's up to. But the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling. You take him for a friend. There are many whites who are...
Our determination to deliver justice for the awful crimes that Russia has committed. You will have seen the scenes this week in Kyiv. Russia using some of the deadliest weapons in its arsenal on innocent children, striking a hospital. When I went to Kyiv, I saw for myself the devastation and inhumanity of Russian aggression. I went to Bucha, just outside Kyiv, and spoke to some of the people there who described to me and pointed to me on the road where they had picked up the bodies of their friends, their family members who had been killed, many of them handcuffed, and had to transport them to find graves for them. Using shopping trolleys, they told me, was the only way they could move those bodies. And that had a profound impact on me as they dug those graves, mass graves, for the people who'd been shot and left in the road. As to whether each and every act is in accordance with the law, well, that will have to be adjudicated in due course. I think it's unwise for politicians to stand on stages like this or to sit in television studios and pronounce day by day which acts may or may not be in accordance with international law. I think it's not the role of politicians.
Brad Curran says, I swear, these last 24 hours, the Snyderverse just keeps embodying that immortal Indiana Jones quote. I always turn up. I'm like a bad penny. Yep, it's gonna be in the tail.
وعينيه الحزينة من طاقة المدينة تاخدني وتوديني بغربة العذاب ومشيت بالشوارع.
So basically, Palestine was a bustling place with airports, and it was a country. And you had the different towns, places where people did business and commerce. You had all the different religions there. And now Palestine has been retrograded to Gaza at the West Bank and East Jerusalem. And it's crazy because these immigrants that came in there and took over the place, it's just crazy that they can say that. In fact, listen to this listen to this senator from the Senate. Senator Randy Fine says, and this guy has never lived in Gaza, he's never lived in that region. He says, quite well, actually, thanks for the pick. You should be ashamed of yourself. How do you sleep at night? And he said, quite well, thanks for the pick. So this dead child who's been buried, he says he sleeps quite well. And to hear that from someone who's never been under those conditions, not trying to put himself in the situation of other people, is quite depraved. Now, for those of you who, hold on a second, for those of you who can't understand the Israeli-Palestinian issue, it's very simple. Do the Palestinian people have an army? Do the Palestinian people have an airport? Do the Palestinian people have a country that is called their own, Palestine, that's recognized globally? Do the Palestinian people, are they allowed to develop their economy and their crops and so on, or is this stuff destroyed every 8 years? Okay. Are the Palestinian people dependent on donations from different countries of the world? All right, now we're going to ask the same questions to Israel. Does Israel have an army? Yes, they do. They have the fifth most powerful army in the world. Does Israel, do they have a country? Apparently, the name of the country is Israel, right? Does Israel, is their economy dependent on donations? Yes, they depend on donations from the U.S. and so on, but for the most part, they also have people from Israel who are in American government, right? So they have access to the most powerful country, one of the most powerful countries in the world. Do the Israelis live under occupation? No, of course not. The Palestinians live under occupation. So I've asked this very simple question. Hamas, which is made up of civilians who trained in some military aspects and also in diplomatic aspects. Is Hamas a terrorist if the person who's occupying it has the most powerful army in the world, is funded by the most powerful countries in the world, has its own country, has its own airports so people can escape and get out of the country, has access to its ports and so on, so you can do trade with other countries. It's not stemmed and it has barriers, someone barring things coming into their country. If that's the case, we cannot say that Hamas or Hezbollah, these resistance groups, are terrorists. They're not. They're not terrorists. You can't. When the terror is from the oppressor who has vastly more powerful weapons and more powerful tools at its disposal than the country, which is made up of poor people who have to depend on donations from all around the world, who assemble themselves and decided to resist. So if you tell me all Palestinians are Hamas, or you say I'm Hamas, well, guess what? I am Hamas. I'm Hamas, and we all are Hamas. The whole world is Hamas. You know why? Because we resist your occupation. Not only are you unlawfully occupying areas that you shouldn't have been occupying, but even the land that you possess that is now seemingly legally yours, even that has been gotten through terrorism and through forcing people to give you it when you should not have gotten that land. But there are people living there, so we're not going to chase them out. We'll have to move some people, and either we go back to the 1967 borders, or the whole place is called something else, maybe Palestine, hint, hint, and all the people go back to living together in harmony, and we remove the disruptive Zionist elements. They either go somewhere else, or they adopt a different philosophy of life, and they carry on together, like South Africa. It's one of the two. We see, again, the Israelis here disrespecting the dead of a journalist, Sirine Abu Akleh. And these people are so aggressive and very, very violent. And it just shows their supremacy. It's the supremacy that makes them violent. Here, the police beating down people who are carrying the coffin of this lady. Now, this is very interesting to see an Israeli prisoner kiss the heads of the Hamas leaders, an IDF officer doing that. Why? Well, first of all, he's happy that he's alive and he's getting to come out. And this is unprecedented what's happening. I have to admit, this transaction of hostages and that the ceasefire is being maintained for the most part, and these hostages are being transferred, is unprecedented. What Mr. Donald Trump, I don't know if he wants credit for it or not, but he's doing something crazy in that they are enforcing this because there are Kuwaiti and Egyptian people in that area as well, military, which is to enforce that just in case Israel decides to do bombing campaigns. And also on the ground now, we also have American officials and so on who are there to ensure that the ceasefire is maintained. And Israel can just willy-nilly bomb out things. So there are people on the ground sort of making it difficult for Israel to just do what it wants to do inside of Gaza right now. But I say all of this to say that Hamas is looking really good right now, because the hostages that have been coming from Israeli concentration camps and so on, and we're looking forward to the good old pediatric doctor being released today. He's supposed to be released today, but I don't know if he will be released, Mr. Sophias. Hopefully he is released today. But either way, we've had a number of hostages released, and this is a very good thing. We don't want nobody being hostage. We have POWs, which are prisoners of war. That's totally different. But they're being released as well. So that's good. This is all good. Again, peace for the most part is kind of being kept. Not really, but kind of. So what we're saying is that the reaction by the Israelis who are being released, I know their lives are never going to be the same because this incident is teaching them so much because they're, because of the Hannibal Directive and the ruthless way Israel behaves, um, you know, they're happy to just make it out alive of this situation. But they not only came out alive, they realized the sacrifice. You see, they are getting good meals, but the rest of the people had to struggle and survive. And I believe a lot of these people get to understand the Palestinian cause better by interfacing with these people. So in a way, it's a good thing what happened. And these IDF soldiers now with a different perspective on life, hopefully, I don't know, some of them may become worse for it, will want to fight for the Palestinian cause, whether they're in the IDF or not. And I'm not saying they're going to kill other IDF soldiers or anything like that. I think some of these people are going to talk sense into other people. And I think that's going to help the situation. Now, I don't know how many of these people will be allowed to re-enter the IDF, whether, Netanyahu will trust them or the regime or whatever. But I believe some of these soldiers actually did go back into the IDF. They went back into there. So I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying, but change happens one person at a time. And whether some of these people will go on to do more horrendous things is a totally different story. But the humanity, to learn the humanity, we have to transform it to the humanity. For people to be able to practice their Judaism and so on as a prisoner of war, having the respect for the prisoners, I think they're going to see that and they're going to want to implement something different. So the next generation would be different. Anyways, I just say that because, again, Palestine, what's happening in Palestine is very important. What's happening in Palestine is pretty much how the rest of the world is going to be if we allow things to just slide and just happen the way they're happening right now. If you see this post, I consider you a freedom fighter. The road to freedom is paved with those fighting for the liberation of Palestine. I would say this, the road to freedom has the road to anything, whether it's restore the Snyderverse, whether it's release the Snyder Cut, whether it's release the Air Cut, whether it's, any campaign. It's always filled and riddled with setbacks. Any struggle, whether it's the civil rights struggle in America, whether it was the civil rights struggle in South Africa, any struggle, there's a lot of paved in blood, my friend. A lot of people sacrifice a lot to get the freedoms that we experience today. And it's the same thing in Palestine. You would not think in the year 2025 that we would be having these things and having these discussions on what seems to be a sort of pre-1960 sort of environment inside of Palestine. But that's what's going on there. And it's not only going on there, it's going on in Sudan, it's going on in Somalia, it's going on in Congo in a different sort of way, but still it's the same thing. It's a clanism, it's a cultism, it's a sectarianism. And some people consider other people less than human and they treat them as such. That's the same thing going on in these countries. And it's very important for us to understand and for the world to understand. I know a lot of people are awake to what's going on and we don't side with one side or the other side sometimes. We realize it's just about, hey, we need to make sure that this happens and that's that. I look at the people who talk about move the Snyderverse to Netflix, which I am totally against now. Until Netflix puts back on Palestinian programming, puts back on the voice of the Palestinians, I am not supporting Netflix, and I won't support Netflix until it does that, whenever it chooses to do so. And also, is BlackRock ties, just like how Warner Brothers had to get rid of Rat Pack, had to get rid of Rat Pack. I think Netflix needs to get rid of BlackRock and their BlackRock ties, because the BlackRock is known for providing mercenaries and so on in different wars around the world. And I know Donald Trump is trying to stamp out the USAID and all of that kind of stuff that was dealing with these funding these terrorist groups all around the world to overthrow regimes. And I'm glad he's exposing that, but there's so much more he has to do and so much more they have to do. But the point I'm making is that It's good to see that, because I'll tell you guys, as a matter of a fact, that the struggle is really between the people, the people's mandate. You, the people, have power. You are the ones who are supposed to be dictating things, not your governments. Your governments are supposed to do the will of you. You are the will of the people. They don't get to do whatever they feel like doing and get away with it. And you have to hold them accountable. And you, as a good citizen, must know when you must disobey certain laws that are made, which are counter to the will of the people. That's what you have to do. And you have to be strong about it. Israel killed Tala and her entire family in Beirut, Lebanon. There were no headlines, no global outcry, not a word from the international community. When Israel drops bombs on Lebanese and Palestinian children in their homes, the world looks away every time. And I'm not going to only say that. What's happening in Syria right now is a mess. Don't let anybody fool you. That's not making news either. All right? We don't hear anything. There's no global news on Somalia and Congo and Sudan. And these things have been going on for years now, a number of years now. I put this to you because Palestine is making us more aware of each other as human beings and the rights we should as human beings have. One of them is the right to live. The second is the right to free speech. The other one, and that's being eroded, as you can see with the doctors. Doctor admits Israeli pathologists harvested organs without consent. So they've been harvesting organs from the Palestinians. Something happens in my country as well with human trafficking, which is another, as atrocious as that sounds, human trafficking is still happening to this day for various reasons. So what's happening in Palestine is directly related to human trafficking. It's directly related to sex trafficking. It's directly related to drug trafficking. It's directly related to pedophilia and the enslavement of children and the mistreatment of children. America's supposed to be for women and children. That's what they say. But then when we see scores of women and scores of children being murdered in Palestine, and I said murdered, I didn't say killed. I'm very clear, I'm very specific about murdered, because these bombing campaigns are mass murder. And don't tell me you're looking for one person, so you're going to bomb out the whole entire neighborhood to get to one person. Fuck you. I don't want to hear that. Okay? That's mass murder. That's not trying to that you're trying to make an excuse. So I'm gonna bomb out the whole entire fucking neighborhood to get one person? No, that's mass murder. No. You want to get that one person, you want to get them. Why you need to get them so urgently, I don't know. But if you want to get that one person, there's another way to do it. And it's called intelligence. That's what you have Mossad and CIA for. That's what you have your satellites for. That's what you get the people and informers on the ground for. So I don't buy that shit. I never bought it and I never will. The irony is that British patriots defend Israel. They literally murdered the British in King David Hotel bombing. Isn't it meant to be Britain first? And this is the King David Hotel bombing of Jerusalem on July 22nd, 1946. Okay? The terrorists have been from Israel. In fact, recently there was a suicide bombing that happened in Israel. 3 actually. Empty buses were blown up. And guess who was behind it? Yes, that's right. Israelis. All right, now here's something a little disturbing, but every single fascist in this world, we're seeing them, and they're coming out of the woodwork now. Steve Bannon, he's always been the face of fascists and clowns. So here we go.
Israel are American Jews that do not support Israel and do not support. Where are you from?
I was born in Jerusalem. Folks from USSR, so they've expelled into real socialism. My question to you is this: what do you think about foreign aid to Israel? Is it a strategic partnership?
Israel is a partner of the United States, but people in Israel got to understand something. The number one enemy to the people in Israel are American Jews that do not support Israel and do not support MAGA. Okay, MAGA and the evangelical Christians and the traditional Catholics in this country have Israel's back. They have the Jews back. The biggest single enemy to the Jewish people are not the Islamic supremacists. The biggest enemy you have is inside the wire. Progressive Jewish billionaires that are funding all this stuff. They are the number one enemy, and the people in Israel got to have to set that right. Because MAGA has your back, traditional Catholics have your back, and evangelical Christians have your back. We will always have the back of Israel. But I got to tell you, you have an enemy inside the wire. The only way. Where are you from?
So basically, this clown is talking about how traditional Catholics, which is a lie, have their back. They don't. The Pope doesn't have their back. The Pope came out and said that what's happening is a genocide and it's evil, and Israel's guilty of it. So if the Pope's saying that, of course, the Pope is always in contact with the people inside of Gaza and the West Bank, his people, all the Catholics there, because there are Catholics in Gaza. There are other people of other religions in Gaza and the West Bank and in East Jerusalem. And I'll show you an example of that, actually. This is a young girl who was murdered by Israel. Notice I said murdered. The bus bombing at Bat Yam, Tel Aviv, was done by Jewish Israelis. 3 Israelis have been arrested. There's now a reported ban to stop the truth coming out. The attack was weaponized by Netanyahu and his defense minister to escalate attacks in the West Bank last night. So it's a red flag operation. People are on this now. You can't fucking fool people anymore. The same bullshit that Netanyahu used to do a long time ago, it don't fly now. People are not ignorant. People can see everything. They have cameras. People inside of fucking Israel are out in these motherfuckers. That's right. They can try and clamp down how much they want. Israelis, a lot of Israel, I've said this before, a lot of Israelis do not support this government, do not support what they're doing. They do not support the occupation. There's a lot of Israelis, okay? And I'm gonna put somebody on blast. I'm gonna put her on blast because she needs to make a statement. Fucking Gal Gadot, I don't want to hear no shit from you. I don't want to hear no shit from you. Gal, you got to make a statement. You're a prominent Israeli. You've been in the IDF. You need to make a fucking statement about this government, about Netanyahu. You need to come out and you have to speak, Gal. And other Israelis. I know for a fact there are a number of Israelis, a significant number of Israelis, who do not like what the fuck is going on with Israel. They just don't. Okay? They'll shush, 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 shush in the background, but they don't have the balls and they don't have the fucking spine now to come out and start speaking. I heard one of the parents of one of the hostages came out and started blaming Netanyahu and the IDF for what they're doing. And he was hushed down, but he kept on saying what he had to say. And I know, informally, there's a lot of Israelis that are not rocking with this shit. A lot of them. Okay? Just like how in America, there's a lot of Americans that are not rocking with this shit. Okay? And I know worldwide, globally, which people who are outside of those countries, which is more Gestapo, because you're inside the country, you got to shush, 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 shush. But I know for a fact that a lot of people outside in the world, particularly, the majority of the world, do not support the fucking shit that's going on here. Okay? But now the next generation is not being helpless about it. They're literally doing something about it. If tomorrow we wake up and the entire fucking world and the entire Twitter is going to town on Israel and just fucking blasting them and saying all kinds of things about them, tomorrow everything changes and Donald Trump will have all the leverage in the world to do whatever the fuck he wants to do. And I'm saying this because I'm nobody special, right? I'm just one of billions of people who feel very same way about this Israel-Palestine issue, okay? And the reason that I keep on saying this is because, just like the movies, you have to take a stand. Those people who have been brainwashed into thinking that Israel is God's holy people and they came there and this is a fulfilled prophecy. And if you're brainwashed into that bullshit, which the Bible never said that, I have a very good friend who, you know, I'm not going to mention his name, put him on blast, but he's a Christian brother. And he pointed out that the Bible never said that, right? And once upon a time, we were all brainwashed to think, yes, Israel is God's chosen. My father felt so. When the PLO, you know, Yasser Arafat, they would do their things, whatever, you know, he felt, you know, that, you know, Israel had a right to defend itself and all that bullshit. Well, we've woken up from that garbage, okay? Now we see how wicked and ugly these people have been. And they've been killing people. They've been killing international journalists. They've been killing all kinds of people. And their campaign is to seize land and to terrorize people and force them to move because, according to their laws, they're squatting. And that's bullshit, okay? How could you migrate into a fucking country? You get given a whole set of land, more than the occupants there. And then on top of that, you keep on taking the land from the people, chasing them out, killing them, murdering them, raping them, and pushing them into smaller and smaller areas. The people who are in Gaza, they are refugees. They lived in Israel, but it's called Israel right now, which is really man-day Palestine. So there's no way, no shape, no form. I am uncompromising on this issue. And for my pro-Israel colleagues who may feel a certain way or whatever, I am not here to hate on you. Personally, I don't hate you. But you have no leg of any kind to stand on. You are believing in a whole bunch of fabricated bullshit. Okay? And it is what it is. So I'm not going to mince my words on this issue. And it is what it is. Superman, going back to Superman. So the guy who was saying, this Superman doesn't seem like the Superman of the comics and doesn't feel like DC to him. You're not a DC fan. I'm just going to be real. You're not a DC fan. Okay, you're something, but you're not a DC fan.
Northcom Lightning 1, request permission to unleash the hounds.
You're just not a DC fan. You haven't watched DC Comics. You haven't read DC Comics. I don't know what DC Comics you haven't read. You haven't watched DC animated movies. You haven't done that. You have done nothing when it comes to DC. You have nothing to do with DC. You know what I mean? This is disturbing my fucking... What the fuck, man? Who the fuck would be calling me in the middle of my stream? Oh my God. Not now, buddy. Please stop calling me. Okay, so anyway. I don't know what else to say, right? It's ridiculous the comments I see online concerning Man of Steel, that kind of stuff. If you're a DC fan, this is like a DC fan's wet dream. He's literally not been fighting exactly like the animated series. He's got them fighting like the DC comics. It's DC to its fucking core. Okay? So anybody saying those ridiculous statements, you just gotta ignore them or show them these videos. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no way.
I like what that guy said. Benjamin Netanyahu came and testified before Congress in 2002, and he said with certainty that if we overthrew Saddam Hussein, democracy would sweep the region. He also advocated that we had regime change in Libya, Syria, and Iran. And he's still advocating that to this day. You must recognize that anyone advocating that America go fight another stupid, catastrophic war in the Middle East is your enemy. They are our enemies. Anyone who advocates that. If they start talking to you about fighting a war with Iran, you treat them like an enemy that they are. They are not on your side. Our people do not want to fight any more wars in the Middle East, period.
Just so you know. Now, and believe me, you've heard the huge applause to that. And he's a Jewish American. Jew. They're saying the greatest adversaries of Israel are the Jewish, people. So what are you saying? You're anti-Jewish? You fucking clown. Who's the anti-Semite here? Okay, then. Let's keep it moving. The world is waking up. The world has lost all support for Palestinian cause, says this dumb asshole. Where? Because every available metric shows that the vast majority of the world supports the Palestinian cause. Meanwhile, support for Israel comes from a shrinking cohort of already committed Zionists, self-interested elites, bloodthirsty racists, and evangelicals. Yep. Raphael Asaya says the DC fandom was unified for at least under the idea that some hype for a few hours. Okay, let me try that again. The DC fandom was unified at least under the idea of some hype for a few hours, and it was all because of one photo. DC without Zach is cooked, and today it proved it. Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes without saying. He is the missing ingredient. Christopher Nolan, he don't miss. Christopher Nolan don't miss with his picks. He picks the best guys out there to do the job, and Zach was that. And Warner Brothers is so stupid. That company just makes the dumbest decisions ever. So, I'm not surprised that Warner Brothers is doing what it's doing and just destroying DC and the brand. But, it's a fact. Zack Snyder, without Zack Snyder in the mix, a lot of stuff is just cooked. It's just cooked. It is what it is. Okay. Now this is what I wanted to show you guys here. This is Patriarch Theophilus III of Jerusalem and Palestine, and he talks as a UN keynote speaker about Israeli persecution of Christians. If you're a Christian and support Israel, you need to wake the fuck up. And here we go.
But today the Christian presence faces many challenges. Some of these challenges are the systematic attempts to rid Jerusalem of the historic Christian community by groups of Israeli radicals, some the result of policy initiatives, and some the result of war in Gaza. Our monastery of St. Porphyrios in Gaza was further damaged by an Israeli missile in August. The compound of the Catholic parish of the Holy Family suffered damage, and the adjacent school was damaged by an air raid in August. The Anglican Al-Ahli Hospital has continued to offer medical treatment, but has ongoing concerns about the hospital staff and its ability to be resupplied more fully and regularly. These attacks on Christian properties raise concerns about the ongoing preservation of historical and spiritual sites, as well as the targeting of innocent civilians. It is feared that this ancient Christian community in Gaza has now dwindled to under 600 people. Throughout the West Bank and Jerusalem, the economic situation continues to deteriorate because of the lack of pilgrims, the scarcity of jobs, and the unstable security situation in the West Bank and Jerusalem. The patriarchs and heads of the churches have not ceased to reiterate our calls for a lasting and effective ceasefire, economic support for rebuilding church-run hospitals, schools, and charities, and access for the heads of the churches to Gaza. Yet, even before the war, there were ongoing issues that still persist that we should not lose sight of. For some years, there has been financial pressure on the churches. The constant threat of the imposition of a municipal tax also known as Arnona, on church property remains a serious concern and financial burden for the churches and violates the centuries-old status quo. This harkens back to unfair attempts to tax the churches in the last decade when we were forced to the unprecedented act of closing the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in protest. But today,
So, just in case you don't know, the oldest churches in the world are found in that part of the region, in Palestine. So, Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, that whole area, Jordan, okay, the oldest Christian churches. You also have Egypt. So, you have to understand that these Israelis are trying to wipe out all those churches and clear out those areas and resculpt. You have to understand that the modern Israeli does not even speak Hebrew. They speak something that's more Babylonian. Yiddish is almost gone. Yiddish was an old form of Hebrew as well. So the so-called Jewish people of Israel, they're not even Jewish. You know what I mean? They're not practicing true Judaism. And the best person to explain this to you is going to be this young lady. I will try and find her. Hold on 1 second, I'll find her. This lady.
Israel won't do in the name of vengeance. There's literally nothing that Israel won't do in the name of vengeance and in the name of continuing Zionism. For some people, the takeaway is as long as they're not literally putting people in ovens, as long as they're not doing exactly what the Nazis did, that somehow that's okay. It's actually not okay. Never again doesn't mean never again in the exact same way that the Nazis did it. If that's your takeaway from the Holocaust, you really need to look at yourself and do some soul searching. I'm Jewish. I lost members of my family during the Holocaust. And the truth is, Israel does not represent me. Israel does not make me safer. In fact, it puts me and all Jews in greater danger. Because as Israel commits these crimes against humanity and live streams them, and in some cases gleefully live streams them, we've seen soldiers doing this, Israel doing that and saying it's in the name of Jews, that will create anti-Semitism. The idea that Israel represents all Jews is in itself an anti-Semitic idea. The dual loyalty trope says that all Jews are a monolith and we're all loyal to Israel and we can't be trusted to be loyal to other governments, regardless of where we live. That is really what Israel is leaning into. And you have anti-Semites and then the government of Israel, AIPAC and the ADL, all making the same argument, which I think really shows you the dangers and the inherent anti-Semitism of Zionism. People like to claim that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitic. Well, it's actually not, given that you literally have more Christian Zionists in the world than you have Jewish Zionists. This particular Christian form of Zionism wants Jews to go back to Israel so we can provoke the end times, Armageddon. All Jews except a very lucky 400 who accept Christ as their Lord and Savior burn for all of eternity. So these are the allies. All these cancel culture warriors who talk about right-wingers being canceled are very silent, interestingly enough, when it comes to critics of Israel, who are probably the most canceled people of all. If you're a Palestinian critic of Israel, you're very, very, very canceled. If you're a Jewish critic of Israel, you're less canceled, but you're still canceled. You're just canceled as a self-loathing Jew as opposed to an anti-Semite, which is a significant difference. I mean, I was fired by a network for saying that Israel is an apartheid state. So my being Jewish didn't really protect me. And of course, there's a huge bias in the way that corporate media reports on Israel-Palestine. They're very clear when Russia does something. Russia bombs, Russia strikes, Russia kills. When it's Israel, it's often Palestinians killed in attack, Palestinians dead after bombing. We even know that networks and outlets instruct their writers and reporters not to use certain words like genocide, not even to use the word Palestine. In fact, the reporting by the New York Times on the alleged mass rape used by Hamas was so bad that they had to cancel a podcast that they were going to do about it because there was so little to back it up. Now, on the other hand, you have countless stories and allegations of Israelis raping Palestinians. That got totally ignored. It's really fascinating that we hear time and time again about the 40 beheaded Israeli babies, even though there was no evidence of that. And we do have evidence of actually beheaded babies, children with their heads blown off. I mean, we saw a child literally shredded. Various representatives of the Israeli government are never asked about that. They're never asked to condemn Israel's violence. They're never asked to condemn Israel's terrorism. There was a doctor who was tortured to death. If you don't already feel disturbed by the images of Palestinians or the stories of Palestinians, the story of Hind Rajab, who was left in a car to die when she was begging for help, and Israeli soldiers shot up the car and shot up the ambulance trying to rescue this girl. If that doesn't haunt you, I would really urge you to imagine this happening to a Jewish child during the Holocaust. I think that Jews should understand this, if anything, more than other people, because of our history of being targeted, of being otherized, of being compared to vermin, of attempted extermination, of genocide and ethnic cleansing, and of the world looking the other way. That is something that we have to remember. That happened to us. We can't let that happen to other people. That's not justice. That's not how we honor those killed in the Holocaust. Everything that Israel tells you about its founding, about its history, and about its role today is a lie. Some people think, oh, Israel was founded for Holocaust survivors, and then it got greedy and took over too much land and ruined its founding mission, which was to be a safe haven for Jews. The truth is, it was founded on ethnic cleansing. It was not a utopia. I think it's really eye-opening to look at the actual language of early Zionists, because they were calling their banks colonial trusts. They were talking about how natives always resist colonists. In other words, it's not just critics of Zionism who describe Zionism as colonial. It was the Zionists themselves. Israeli society really had a lot of disdain for Holocaust survivors. So they did something very disgusting. They both weaponized the Holocaust to justify their extermination of Palestinians, and they mistreated Holocaust survivors. In fact, they even referred to them as sapon, which means soap in Hebrew. And that was because there was a myth that Nazis turned Jewish bodies into soap. It's not true, but that was a myth. And the important thing is that people thought that was true, and they thought it would be appropriate to call survivors by that name. Israel wanted to create a new Jew that was armed, that was working the land. They were ashamed of the Jews who were killed. They thought that they went to their slaughter like sheep. They were ashamed of Jews who were religious, Jews who were scholars, Jews who were also cosmopolitan. They really did, ironically, internalize a lot of anti-Semitism. There were Zionist bombings in the Middle East that were used to scare people into emigrating out of Iraq, out of Morocco, and into Israel. That's how little they cared about Jewish people. They bombed synagogues in order to get people to leave the Middle East and go to Israel, where they would be mistreated, which is what happened to Mizrahi Jews. Some were basically put into camps. They rejected Yiddish, which was spoken by Eastern European and diasporic Jews, and they also rejected Arabic, which was spoken by Mizrahi Jews of the Middle East. Yiddish is an amazing language, and it's dying out. And the reason it's dying out is because Israel chose to create modern Hebrew, which no one spoke. And they had a lot of disdain for a lot of Jewish culture. So Israel has always been a racist project in many ways against Palestinians, but even against Jews themselves. And it's been an anti-Semitic project as well. Not only is Judaism obviously much older than Zionism, but there was Christian Zionism from the very beginning, and that was fueled by anti-Semitism and the desire to get Jews out of Europe. Lord Balfour of the Balfour Declaration was a major anti-Semite. Zionism actually requires anti-Semitism to justify its existence. So for Zionists, they don't want to defeat anti-Semitism. They want to use it to strengthen the state of Israel. It's also true to remember that this is not a conflict about religion or culture. Jews and Christians and Muslims lived in peace and harmony in many areas of the Middle East for centuries. This is about power. This is about land. This goes back to resources. This goes back to the West wanting to have a foothold in the Middle East. This is not about religion. Jewish anti-Zionism has existed since Zionism. A lot of Jews opposed Zionism because they, I would say rightly, predicted it would create anti-Semitism. There is a very rich radical history of Jewish internationalism. During the Spanish Civil War, which many people see as the dry run for World War II, among all the international brigades, so all the volunteers who left their countries to fight in a war against fascism, the most common language spoken was Yiddish, which speaks to this tradition. If we look at so many struggles like the civil rights movement in the United States, there were lots of Jews involved in that. Jewish people were overrepresented in that movement. If you look at South Africa, some of the most active anti-apartheid activists were Jewish. That's the tradition that I'm proud to be part of, not a tradition which weaponizes trauma, tragedy, and the Holocaust to kill more people. Israel is unsustainable. There's no coming back from this. Something new needs to be created. Jews can live side by side with Muslims and Christians in Palestine, just as they have for centuries. If coexistence is so impossible, and if anti-Semitism is so impossible to fight against, how is it that Jews live in Germany today? Germany was where anti-Semitism turned into the Holocaust, and yet somehow Jews are able to live in Germany in safety, but we're supposed to believe that they can't live in Palestine in safety? Palestine is not the country that created Adolf Hitler. Palestine is not the country that created the Holocaust. The biggest threat to Jewish safety is not a free Palestine, it's Zionism. It's essential to challenge the lies and propaganda of mainstream media. You won't see videos like these.
Yep. That's real talk, man. So that's basically what I got. I just wanted to share this one from Seba, also known as Cinema Thing. He's
DC Studios. Wow. Oh my God, so crazy. And you got people. This video right here is going to explain exactly what life as a DC fan really feels like. So yesterday, everyone got really excited that James Gunn and Zack Snyder met at DC Studios. Wow, oh my God, so crazy. Then you got people who have been hating Snyder for the last 15 years talking about, oh, he could do a project in the DCU, maybe The Authority. They're kind of like the Watchmen, but we'll make a video on that later. Then you had Snyder fans coming out of the woodwork saying, oh no, we want him to continue his Justice League storyline of Justice League 2 and 3. And then Grace Randolph said, oh my gosh, we're going to have some big news next week, because they're holding a press conference at DC Studios right now. So everyone started speculating, oh my gosh, is Zack Snyder actually coming back to DC? Is he going to be doing a project in the DCU, or is he continuing the Snyderverse? Turns out it was a bunch of bullshit. Granted, it is a little bit my fault. I should have known better than for WB to actually be smart and do something right for once. And I also should have known better when Zack Snyder himself didn't post anything on his social media. Because if you follow Snyder, you know he's insanely cryptic with all of his posts. And he didn't even share this picture. It was just James Gunn. So as far as we know, Snyder just decided to take a picture with a fan. And that's pretty much
Batman wants. Will you be Batman? What was your response? The phone rings and they're offering you the chance to be Batman.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the first thing I thought was like, well, wait a minute. That's not, I was thinking of them doing sort of the origin story, the new Batman. He comes out, he rediscovers himself. He wants to avenge his parents' death. He fights the supervillain. I thought, that's not me. I'm not that Batman, right. and Zach was like, no, this guy, he's older and he's really up and he's broken down and he's on the edge of moral bankruptcy. Oh, I'm clearly your man. Say no more.
That's hilarious that you start the conversation by saying, no, I'm not Batman, which is what Bruce Wayne would say on that same phone call.
That's right. I was already in character.
I would know that if I got that call, I'd be yes from the beginning, but you had your trepidations. And then what is obvious, seeing the film, is that it's Frank Miller version of Batman, and there's a lot of
That's what got me really excited was it was that Dark Knight Returns version of the character, which is that kind of, being seriously, that he's more broken down. He's kind of like a brawler, a heavyweight boxer in the 12th round, a guy who's torn up and at his kind of wit's end. And I thought there was something kind of cool and punchy and fun about that Frank Miller version.
Yeah, and I'm curious because now I get to ask you the same question, Henry. This is the second time you've done the Superman outfit, but the first time you got the call that you could play Superman, what was your reaction?
Well, the first time I got the call, I actually missed it. I was playing World of Warcraft at the time, and I had my priorities straight.
Wait a minute. You were home. It's not like you weren't home. You were home, but you were playing World of Warcraft, and the phone rings, and you're like, I'll get that later?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get that later. And I was playing He was an important part of a particular dungeon that I was going through. And it's cool now that I'm Superman.
Yeah.
And then I looked across at the last moment and I saw Zack Snyder's name on the phone. So I grabbed the phone and then missed it.
Right.
And so I called him back immediately and said, I'm really sorry. I was saving someone's life. And I missed your call.
Which is what I do all the time.
And the news.
So you were forgiven.
I was.
Yeah, that's good.
Is going to explain exactly what life as a DC is going to explain exactly what life as a DC fan really.
October 13th, 1980.
All right. Now, this is Hamas statement concerning the Bibas family, where they say no. And we all know, but for those of you who don't know, the Bibas family, so it was reported that they died from idea of bombing, and Hamas was going to hand back the bodies, and Israel didn't respond, and so the father of the family was real ticked off. So he went and he actually did a stream. He was talking about how, the idea of just keeping him from seeing his family, getting back their dead bodies after they killed them. So this is not something that Hamas is lying about, So that's the story. So the Hamas is just coming out and saying, nope, we did not kill the Bibas family. That was the idea when they were bombing. Everybody knows that since 2023. The father of the babies and the husband of the wife, he came out and he wanted to get the bodies and was blaming the idea for not having that happen so he could have closure. All right, people. So that's basically it for me for now. I really spent a lot of time here on this stream. I wanted to do that because, like I said before, we're all looking forward. I see a lot of people saying, is this happening? What do you think? Are we going to restore the Snyderverse? Stuff like that. A lot of people really like to get the Snyderverse restored, but you know how it goes. That's Blakey. All right, people. That's it for me for now. I'm going to bounce from here. I hope you guys have a good day. You can leave your comments in the comment section below. I'm going to be out of here. Those of you who watch this thing all the way to the end, kudos to you. You guys are strong guys because I'm almost 2 hours in on this stream. Anyways, I'm out of here. I'll get you guys later. I wanted to spend some time speaking about this, though, because particularly Palestine, because, there's a lot more that I haven't spoken about, which I'm sorry about that. But I'm sure if you guys are in the know, you'll know about the rest of stuff that's going on, whether it's Donald Trump or, the government. And, all these things are so interconnected. That's what people don't know. Like, poor people getting address in society is just, it doesn't happen very often, And so that's what Palestine kind of represents. That's what Sudan, Somalia, Congo, that's what they represent, because these people are mostly, they're victims and they're poor, okay? Because the country's been leveled. What's happening to the people in Syria? Nobody's talking about that, but that's a serious thing as well. It's happening in Lebanon, again, serious thing as well. Nobody talks about these things. The Western media focuses on Israel. It focuses on the wealthy in Israel, because not everybody is getting a voice in Israel. It's very Gestapo. People are being censored. Same thing's happening in Germany. And so, the voices, but you see the marches in the UK, in Spain, and I'm just talking about the European nations, in Norway, France. You see the marches and you realize that people do not agree with what their governments are doing. So we have a lot of support globally. Individually, we are all just individuals, but collectively, we are a tour de force. So you guys keep on keeping the fight going, not only for that, but also, of course, with respect to AI, trying to replace human beings and replace them with AI and robotics. Well, let's keep our eyes on that too. The world's changing. It's changing very rapidly. It's changing in the direction of some wicked, evil people who want to get rid of most of the world's population, and they're trying so hard. They're trying to poison us. In the food we eat, they're trying to kill us by giving us vaccines. They're trying to kill us through wars so they can just do mass genocides. They're trying all kinds of methods, my friend. you know. So y'all keep good. David Icke. If you don't know David Icke, you should check him out. He's a really good guy. He doesn't side with anybody. They say he's a conspiracy theorist, but he's not. He's a real cool guy. Check him out on Twitter. He's a cool guy. There's a lot of guys. Jeffrey Sachs. And by the way, a lot of these guys I'm talking about, Jeffrey Sachs, the young lady that just spoke, David Icke. I don't know for David Icke, but Jeffrey Sachs is definitely 100% Jewish. Okay? So lest people think that Jewish people are equivalent to, you know, Israelis or people who are pro-Israel. That is bullshit. There's a lot of Jewish people. The president of Mexico is Jewish. She is not pro-Israel. Well, she doesn't condone what Israel is doing right now. Let's put it that way. She's not a Zionist. So you can be Jewish, and that don't mean squat. That don't mean you pro-Israel, okay? And a lot of Jewish people are not pro-Israel. Just gonna let y'all know that right now. They're leading the charge, by the way, against it. That's what I got for you guys. I will catch you guys later. Peace to you all.